Band Life Podcast! You are listening to the Band Life Podcast, your number one guide on how to run a profitable band. Here are your hosts, Pete Stannard and Adam West, the Wizard of Rock! Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Band Life Podcast. I'm your host, Pete Stannard, and I'm here with the bearded one himself, Mr. Adam West, the Wizard of Rock, and a very special guest, the beautiful Georgia Nevada.
Hey, I love the applause.
Hey? We're like...
I love how it just kind of cuts.
Yeah.
Like, that's enough now.
I just cut that off. That's done. I would let it go. It goes on for ages.
You just played it.
It's like a minute of clapping. Yeah, put it back on. Put it back on.
No. How are you both today? How are you doing?
Good. Very good. Thank you.
We're good. So episode 18 is our first special guest on the podcast. And we're so happy for you to be here, Georgia. You're so welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yes, all right. We're going to talk about Georgia's life. She was born on a wet day. No, we're going to talk about Georgia's music and her career. So, Georgia, if you don't know who Georgia Nevada is, you have been living under a rock, as far as I'm concerned. But Georgia has racked up 4 chart-topping singles and a Female Vocalist of the Year nominated at the 2021 British Country Music Awards. Congratulate that. That in itself deserves this.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, that was a bit feeble. Put the long one on. I want to hear the long one.
That was a
There we go.
That was a bit you chopped off, wasn't it?
Yeah. Why should I have just a slow clap? Like,
Yeah.
just in an empty room.
That'll be for me and my audience, mate. I don't have one.
But anyway, congratulations for that, Georgia. That's awesome.
Thank
Well
you very
done.
much.
Very good.
Thanks.
So I'm going to break down the episode for you. What we're going to do is, on this episode, we are going to start with a bit of background about Georgia. So we're going to let her speak for hours and hours about her, because she loves it. Then we're going to talk about her recorded music. Then we're going to talk about we're going to have our new section, which is Who Do You Want to Slap? Which is Georgia's choice as a special guest, obviously.
I haven't had one yet. Mind, I haven't had a slap.
Yeah. Well, we only started it last episode, mate.
Favoritism.
You can do it next time, Westo. You can do it next time, mate, okay? Then we're going to talk about her live music. Then we're going to get into... Oh, he's turned his back on me. Oh, he's such a baby. Anyway, then we're going to talk about how Georgia markets and her branding. Then the future of Georgia Nevada, which is also very important. And I think it's going to be really great for our listener to get a different perspective on it, because we're always banging on about metal music and what metal bands should do. Georgia's a country artist, and things... Even though from a business sense was probably quite similar, there might be certain little bits and bobs that are different, especially around sort of music production and possibly how you sort gigs, like different promoters might be genre specific and things like that. But we'll get into that, I hope. It depends on George's answers at the end of the day, which I have no idea what they are. But anyway, let's crack on. Let's start. Let's have a little bit of background about Georgia Nevada. Who are you and why should people care?
Oh, God. No one should really care.
No, nobody
No one has to care.
No, even her husband.
He doesn't care. He actually is at the bottom of the list when it comes to the people who care.
We'll give him a slap then. We'll give him
a slap.
Just a little backhand, just a little one. I've been, country's always been kind of my thing. I grew up with family in America and things like that, so I was always kind of back and forth, and they were back and forth, bringing back like all of Walmart's CD range. So I kind of grew up listening to a lot of music. My dad was in theatre, musical theatre, so it's always been like a theme throughout my life. And then the musical theatre evolved into me just wanting to sing. I realised I wasn't particularly fond of moving, not much of a dancer. Really like acting, don't like remembering lines. I moved more into the music side of the world, and then released my first single in 2020.
Yes,
interesting.
Which I was a part of that one, wasn't I?
You were. You were indeed.
I am even in the music video.
You are even in the music video.
Even in the music video, yeah. That's my claim to fame.
Red guitar.
My red guitar. And the red tambourine. Everyone, I remember. I remember it now. Yes. Everyone had to wear red and black. And you said, "I'll change it up." And everyone turned up in a red shirt and black trousers.
Honestly, it's so funny. So funny.
That's great. So you say about the Walmart, because Walmart in the States, it was a bit like the Columbia thing where they just kind of gave out music. And I think Walmart took that over for a while. So like, because obviously record shops went out of business. So, and obviously Walmart still had a business. So it kind of everything went into Walmart, and that became like a massive distribution network in the States. Just as a side note.
Huh.
See, I'm full of useless crap when it comes to the music industry. I
love that.
That's the depths of my brain. Recorded music, Georgia.
Yes.
You have a new single coming out tomorrow.
I do.
Woo-hoo. As of recording, it is the 10th today, the 10th of April. So it will already be out by the time, because there's no way we're going to get this edited and out before tomorrow. So
don't move it.
So we can say it is out now. The new song, it's called My Town 2. Can you tell us a little bit about the song?
Of course. I wanted to, I've written a lot of like very kind of meaningful songs, and I wanted to write something that was a little more lighthearted and a little bit more fun. And I tend to, a lot of my songs come from real life experiences. So only when my life is fun can I write about fun. And this song was actually written after I played a hometown festival, and it was really cool. It was one of the really, really big crowd. And I was sort of looking out, and there was like all the people that I love in the world, you know, my family were there, old friends from school, like all these really, really lovely people. And then I looked a little bit further, and I saw my ex-boyfriend like smiling back at me while I was playing.
Did you give him the finger?
I didn't, but I should have. You know what? He's not a bad person at all, but he was there smiling at me, and there was just something that went in my brain. And we played the best set we've ever played, and then came off, and I got home that night and wrote this song. And it's kind of about like reclaiming the area, like the home that shaped you. So for me, it's sort of about like, you know, just because we had a date on that field doesn't mean that that's what I remember it for. I remember it because that's where I learned to ride a bike. Like little things like that, that I wanted to kind of bring into the song. So that's My Town too.
Oh, great. It's kind of sassy.
Cool.
Like it.
It is a little bit, isn't it?
It is a bit, isn't it? It's like a little bit of it. So are you going to send the ex the song?
I honestly have no hard feelings for him as well. Like I don't hate this guy at all. It was more that I was like, oh, there's a feeling. And then I took that feeling, blew it up and wrote a song about it.
No, I was going to say, I mean, it's a bit like we were talking last night in practice about, we're playing through one of our songs, and sometimes we just blank out because we're thinking about stuff that's happened in the past, or like a gig we played, and we zone out and we lose our moment. And so sometimes those little moments, what we end up writing about or singing about. And I imagine it was a bit like for yourself, really, I suppose, kind of seeing that. Not that it was anything bad about it, but you're just like, oh, it just struck a nerve and a memory, and you're like, oh, okay, right, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
That
Yeah.
happen as well. It's like, oh, well, other people have obviously been through situations like this.
True.
Everyone's had a breakup, so it's that case of like when you go through those places and you kind of have to, you those memories come back up, but they're not what those places mean. Do you know what I mean? There's more to those places than just those memories of that person.
Well, that's why music is great, because you can tell that story, and then if people open up the question about, oh, what's the song, like we have, then you elaborate and say, oh, okay, I thought it might have been about something else. Okay, very good. Yeah, it's nice, cool, very cool.
Can you explain the production process for this song and how it kind of differed? Because you've done quite a lot. You've done a couple of EPs and a few singles and stuff like that. So was the production process on this different from what you've done previously? And if it is, how did it differ?
Yes, very much so. So I've kind of done a bit of everything before. So I've had the situation where I've sent a really, really rough version to a producer, and he has created an amazing song from it. I've also done it in the bedrooms kind of situation, like set up a little studio. I've done it in the other respect with DIY, where I've worked with, one of my good friends is a producer as well. So I've worked with him, and the band have all kind of like come in at different times, and we've all recorded it all kind of separately. But with this one, it was really nice because it's all been really organic and very like in the room. So before we went to the studio, I sort of wrote this song, sent it to the band, and was like, I made a thing. What do you think? And they all really liked it. So we all got together and kind of like jammed the songs out. And this one was it was really easy, like right from the off. I think the kind of the very basic structure that I had for it, that was, I just had the lyrics and the chords essentially, was already there and pretty solid. And the guys just came in and like completely elevated it in our little, rehearsal space. And then when we took it to the studio, we expanded on it even more. And it was just really, really fun. We all kind of like sat around, didn't we? Like, by the way.
Did I produce it? Oh, I was.
You
What a plug.
Hey,
but yeah, we all like sat around and kind of played with ideas. We got the basic structure down, and then we kind of developed from there and played around with a few other instruments and things like that, and made something really cool.
Something really cool. And
music's all about.
It was just kind of the relief on Will, who is George's drummer, the relief on his face when I said, you don't have to play this to a click track if you don't want to.
Honestly, he hates click tracks. Yeah. They are like the bane of his life.
Yeah.
Our drummers the same, don't like them.
Don't like them at all. It's just fair enough. And honestly, I think especially for country music, why would you play to it? It's supposed to have that really organic thing. But in Adam and I's world, in sort of modern metal, certainly in modern metal, not so much in kind of the classic metal sort of stuff, but in modern metal, playing to a click track, it's like, everything has to be like bang, bang, bang on.
But it can get really messy as well, can't it? If you don't in that environment. Whereas with country, it's all about like the flow and the, going with the lyrics,
about a vibe,
feeling, and
it's more organic instead of it being inorganic.
And I kind of wish more metal bands were like that. But the amount of artists I get in the studio that are like, oh, it's all to a click, but we want it to sound organic. It's like, you can't do it. You're not going to get that. It's not going to happen because your drummer's not a robot. At the end of the day.
AP, you're going to get on fine with us when we come to record. You're telling now.
Either that or it's going to be a hot mess.
Damn wait.
One of the two. But anyway. Cool. Well, thanks for that. So what kind of release strategy do you have for this single and potential singles going forward?
Yeah, so I mean, this is part of a bigger project, which hasn't been announced yet. But I think my my kind of idea with it is to start kind of drip feeding songs. So before I've done very scattered singles. I've done, you know, like 3 singles over 3 years. Wouldn't recommend that. I've also done 3 singles and then a 5-track EP. And for this, I just plan on releasing a lot of singles and kind of doing that waterfall method with Spotify and trying to bring a bit more to it and quicker, and releasing them closer together than I ever have before as well, which is quite exciting.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really, especially from a streaming perspective, it's a really great way of doing it, because you just have that forward momentum each month. You've got something to really shout about.
Yeah, and actually, a credit to you though, Pete, because I wouldn't have done that without your wisdom.
Time will tell on the wisdom bit.
She's sat there like, I told her about that. I told her
about that, and
I told her about that one.
Now it fell off a cliff.
No, you absolutely did. I wouldn't have done it otherwise.
So, but I honestly, I can't see why it wouldn't work at the end of the day, because you're putting so much more marketing behind it, and unless your marketing is that bad, which you're not, you're on it with marketing. I've seen a lot of your stuff, which we will delve into. But and you're doing physical at some point once kind of the tail end of this project, or not?
Yeah, I mean, I have a really soft spot for vinyl. I think I'll always try and release whatever I can on vinyl. My debut EP, I didn't release on CDs. I only did like a limited run of vinyl. And they all sold out to the point where I don't even have one.
Why? Why do people do this? Why? Put it on the shelf. No.
The problem is I sold out, and then I was like, you know, as we all know, you need money to be able to buy it in the first place. So I was like, oh, I could sell it, and then eventually I'll buy some more, and I'll just take one of those. But I need to buy some more to be able to do that.
Yeah,
I've got the cover.
So I want to ask you a quick question, if you don't mind. So obviously, as you were talking then about your music and stuff, obviously I'm a big vinyl fan also, and I have a lot of it. I don't have my own music on vinyl. It's something I'd like to do. I did a CD, 6-page digipack.
Cool.
Because it's the closest I could get to what the album would have been like, but it did it in a condensed form, because obviously we're not that well known and nobody would have bought it except me and immediate family members. So my question was going to be like, can you talk to us a little bit about the vinyl that you did your music on, since you brought it up? Because I'd be interested to know the process and who you went with and all that. If you could, that'd be great.
Yeah, of course. So the EP was mastered by a guy called Ben at Rare Tone Mastering, and he's a really, really lovely guy, but he also presses vinyl, and he has one of the only lathe cut vinyls in the country. I think there's like 2 left or something.
In the UK, is there?
I think so, yeah. I think he is a stat in the world as well, but I can't remember what it is, but I can find it, and then if you want to throw it in, you can. But so he cut the vinyl for me, and he does very limited runs. So I was able to get a run of like 10, and then I sold all of those, and then was like, oh, I need more. So then I bought another 10, and then I sold all of those. And I think I did this 4 times.
Would you be happy talking about how much it cost for the small run?
Yeah, so his prices were really reasonable, actually. So they were, I believe, for a really, really small run, it was like £18 per vinyl. Which, I mean, it is expensive, but it's for what it is really good. And he does it all for independent artists that he works with, because he's just a nice guy. And
like the sound, we're nice guys. I like the sound of this.
Yeah, honestly, you'd like him. He's lovely, lovely dude.
Thank you. So we'll drop a link. We'll drop a link to him in the show notes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
As well. Yeah. So, yeah. If you give me his details, we'll big him up.
Absolutely, we'll do. So so he sent those across, and I had to get the artwork done separately. But my father-in-law is a graphic designer and helped me out a whole bunch with the sort of the printing of it. So I designed all the artwork, but then he kind of printed the things
Put in the templates.
Put it in the right place.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, he sat for hours and stuck them all together as well.
It takes a while, yeah. When we done the digipack, I used GIMP 2.8, a free program on the PC, and I asked the company to send me their templates. Well, what I did, I put the templates on ones that I had first, and then they went, yeah, that's great, it all looks good, but can you put it on our templates? And there was a margin difference because they put it onto the press, and it's kind of all done. Well,
yeah.
Oh, God. So I spent hours and hours then transferring it all to their prints and getting exactly as it was. It was a nightmare. But we got in, yeah. When I sent it, they said, right, well, we'll send it across, and this is how we should look like. I went, okay. So yeah, it can be a bit of a pain, but yeah, I mean, you might, if you're going to be doing anything again, check out GIMP. It's a free program, and you can do everything on there yourself. Ask them to send you the templates, and you can just do it all yourself. Not really. If it cuts out the middle person, but it just gives you a bit more creative control. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I work in like graphic-y, designy stuff, cool. So I just sort of threw vinyl's a square, isn't it?
Nice and easy.
I just had to square a bit, and then my father.
And just as a side note, people don't just Google the word GIMP, please. The results may vary.
What's your fan base like?
Very great, lovely people.
Cool.
There are certain people who will be at every show, which is awesome. Amazing. Those guys are always the first to buy merch, the first to buy tickets, and all of that, which is ideal. And I think actually the UK country fan base is so dedicated and so like committed to boosting the independent artists that it means that I can do 4 runs of 10 vinyl and sell out. Like they're really wonderful, and they understand the value of merch and selling merch, and they understand the value of buying tickets, and they understand the value of showing up. And they're all very engaging on social media and things like that. It's a really great community, actually.
Cool. Yeah, we need a bit of that over here. A lot of our fan base is very.
Yeah.
Metalheads are slightly different. But I think you kind of got the same. You either have like really dedicated fans for metal, or people that are just like, just holding a pint, going, yeah, they're all right. Ugh.
Yeah. I also think like with country music as well is we're very vulnerable on stage. We're very like, we talk about the songs. The reason it was so easy for me to talk to you about My Town too is because I've done it 20 times on stage. Like, yeah, we're all so used to exposing stories about ourselves, and we'll sit in writers' rounds and cry because do you know what I mean? Like we're telling you something really deep and emotional. So there's always that kind of connection with country fans that I feel like other genres may not experience quite as much. And I think it is so valuable. It's so valuable.
I couldn't imagine sitting at a metal gig. The band being like, so this is about, my
that is so expected in country. It would be weird if you just played a country set without
just played talking. It. Yeah,
that would be weird.
There's talking, but there's never like anything like deep emotional kind of. You're not going to get like a big hairy metal guy crying.
You get bottled.
You get something would be negative. Something.
See, we're not like that. We're very much in touch with our feelings, and we have a comedy element with I don't know if Pete and his music, but when we play live, there's a comedy element. Like often enough, I'll say, "Is there any Paradise Lost fans out there?" Because our music is got elements of that, and I'm like that. It's total silence like every time, because this band's been around like 30 years, and people are like, "Paradise Lost." Oh, I don't know. So I go, okay, My Dying Bride, and they're like, okay. What about? And I'll mention another one, Anathema, and they're so again complete silence. I went, all right, okay, whatever. And so we're gonna play a track now, like, and then my drum will say, what about Boney M? Boney M, yes. And they're all like, yeah, I'm like that. Right, we're playing a track called Boney M. Yeah, we thought of that, and it tends to go down quite well. But because more often enough, trying to engage with the audience in the metal community is really difficult. A lot of the time, it's just shouting down a mic. Do you play an instrument at all?
I do. I play guitar. I wouldn't say I'm a guitar player, but I play guitar. And I can, I could record acoustic guitar if I have to. I would rather not. I'm not.
Okay, so do you just sing on stage then, do you, yourself?
I play on stage.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I always play. It's very rare that I won't have a guitar on stage.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, chord based, just strumming, that sort of thing, is it?
Just little bits of rhythmy stuff.
Cool. Yeah, very good. That's all right. Cool.
The shredding on that acoustic guitar.
Yeah, I don't do that.
You can shred.
I can play enough to be able to do solo gigs all the time.
Oh, well, that's
people
cool,
to be receptive.
Cool.
So that's good.
Hopefully, good.
That's
Thank you.
great.
There you go.
Kind of going back to the artwork, Georgia.
Yeah.
So you said you do it yourself, but and you've got your father-in-law to help you. But are you using any AI or anything like that for it, or is it all just kind of in something like Photoshop?
Yeah, no, I use Canva on a day-to-day basis.
Canva's
I love
quite
Canva.
popular.
Always using Canva. Yeah.
I've only just got into Canva myself. I'm
Really?
yeah.
My entire I mean, we all know I've probably got a day job. My day job is Canva. Essentially. So yeah, that's where I spend all of my time, and I don't use any of the AI features for artwork. I would either pay an artist or do it myself.
Brilliant.
Oh, that's a sore subject for me.
Yeah.
Who would you want to slap and why?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
I don't think I need to give any reasons.
Controversial. The genius. No, not really.
What, one of those, Pete?
A backhander, a full
Oh,
No,
palm?
I think he'd get a little like. Come
Okay.
on.
Explain what. Convince us, right? Let's. We're not going to be difficultly convinced.
We've already talked about him on the show.
Convince our listener. Why should we give Elon Musk a full frontal slap?
He's just a big rich child, isn't he? That's just how I view him. I look at him and I'm like, oh dear, what went wrong? What happened?
It started so well, Elon.
Pete, give him the slap.
Oh, I'm agreeing there. Go on, Elon. That's what you get, mate. Face it. You were all right, but now you are a There we go. Cut off weird.
We enjoy this part of the show. I think we need to get it a bit louder, like, you know.
It's all right. I edit that. I'll make it louder. Don't worry.
Brilliant. There you go. Okay.
There you go.
Second slap of the show. A slap.
Slap part 2 was Elon Musk. Okay. Moving on from there. Live music, Georgia. I know we've touched on that sort of thing.
Yes.
But what is your strategy for getting gigs?
I tend to contact whoever I can get the contact for. I'm very, very proactive with getting gigs. And sometimes I'll approach the venue directly. If I know someone in the venue, I will try and approach them directly. If I know an organizer or I know a friend of an organizer, I'll ask for an introduction or see if there's any way that I can, is there anything I can offer you for an introduction? That kind of thing. In terms of like cap and stuff like that, I don't really take that into consideration an awful lot unless it's I'm putting on a headline show for myself. Then I think about it a whole lot. But if I'm, an appearance at an event or a festival or something like that, I'll play to whoever.
No, I get that for festivals. So if you are, let's say you are headlining, what sort of number, sort of cap, what sort of size were you looking at?
I like 60. Sometimes I have played 180 before as a headline show, and that went pretty well. It didn't look empty, so that's always good. But that's my fear. I'd rather it be a smaller room and busier and look busier than be a
a bigger
massive
room and
room
everything.
with like
It's very hard for a musician, isn't it? When you play, you put a lot of effort into the build up to the gig. With even if you're doing it yourself, like I manage some festivals and put them on, and you put a huge amount of work in on the back end to get very little out of it, even if you're paying for Google Ads. And it's disheartening for the bands, because two of the things we try to do was get pay the bands and give them a crowd. And one of the hardest things was getting the crowd. Paying the bands was pretty easy enough. If you had enough people in, you could just go, okay, well, we made 50 quid. And we got 3 bands on. Well, you got to split the 50, and we'll end up with nothing. But we pay the bands, right? So, if getting the crowd, we found really, really difficult in most gigs, and it's just even now it's hard. Like, most bands don't talk about it. They'd be like, "Hey, how was the gig?" And they're like, "Hey, it went really well." And it's like, "Yeah, but
a lot of crowd, especially at the moment as well. Less people are buying tickets to shows. It's getting harder and harder, and a lot of the things that are cancelled for unforeseen circumstances are usually lack of ticket sales, and it's not even an accurate reflection on the artist a lot of the time, because that artist sold out somewhere down the street 6 months ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's not necessarily any kind of rhyme or reason to it anymore as well, which I think makes it even harder.
So do you, when you're kind of thinking about your gigs, are you kind of thinking, okay, well, I played this town last week, so I'm specifically going to try and play over here? It's a completely different place. Yeah, because I find quite a lot of the time I speak to a lot of artists, and they're like, oh, I was speaking to a band they're up in Edinburgh, and they were like, we've played everywhere in Edinburgh, we want to play more in Glasgow. Like, how do we do that? I said, well, the first problem you've got is that you've saturated Edinburgh. So now what you need to do is literally just go to Glasgow and speak to as many people as possible. Go to those venues and things like that. And just try to get your foot in the door that way.
So that's where we have a problem, because I work all weekend, so we can't get it, and all 3 of us are busy. So I sent like 30 emails in the last month to all these pubs. No one's responded.
Yeah, I think I tend to, I will saturate my hometown, so I know I can get a crowd in the hometown. That's kind of my main thinking, and then from there expand outwards. Like, I've played a few shows in Essex now.
Yeah, it's just good show.
I've been Manchester, Leeds. Like, I'm kind of up and down the country all the time, because I've done Cambridgeshire, I've done Cambridge. It's now, luckily I had my EP launches at the end of last year, and I sold out 2 nights, and they were 50. There were 50 tickets for both. So there's that for me was like, okay, cool, this area is good. Let's move to the next and just keep trying to expand.
That's what a lot of it is, isn't it? It's like a bit of a minefield. So you have like we were talking about in the band. This like, well, we've been playing all these HMV gigs, and like we've done really well, sold a load of albums, and it's just like, wow, amazing. Wasn't expecting it at all. But yet we can't get into the pubs to do that as well. It's not a massive issue for us, but we're kind of like, well, if we play the HMV gigs and that's all we do, we're fine with that. We're getting very receptive responses from people, so we're happy. Yeah. But we were talking about, well, look, if using the HMV as an example, we play these certain HMVs, and let's say our most popular one was Yeovil, our last gig, and we sold the most albums and got the most albums signed by people we didn't even know. They were just like elderly people as well, wanted them signed, and I'm just like, right, okay. So we were like, okay, well, maybe Yeovil's a good place for what we're doing. And I suppose if you play in venues as well, in cities, you'd kind of go, okay, so you've played these areas, good response there, good sales, good crowd. That's a good place to play for next time. And then, provided like those venues haven't shut down within a year, there's something to go back to. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to sort of pitch and pick at certain places and go, what? Until we actually play there, we won't know what the crowd's like and if it's receptive. And in my hometown, Newport, it's more punk and indie orientated, as opposed to there's a bit of metal and it's trying to get in there, but it's more punk orientated, So for what we're trying to do in our hometown, it's like, it may be okay, It's a tough nut to crack sometimes, isn't it? Trying to work out all that, like the stuff that nobody really sort of, like the fans when they're slagging off artists about, the cost for their album and where they're playing. So, yeah, like there's a lot on the back end that we're trying to do, yeah, and it's like tough. It's tough.
So, I mean, you've been touring, I noticed, quite recently.
Yes.
With a few artists. How did you get involved with those tours, and how were they organised, kind of logistically?
So I went on tour in November with Gina Lana, and that was because Gina's manager had seen me on social media and asked her whether I would be someone that she'd be happy to have on the tour with her for the whole tour, and she was well up for it. So yeah, and then they reached out to me like that. Gina reached out to me, and then I made contact with her manager, and that was it. It was all very easy and very quick and very like, oh wow, that's happening. Okay,
yeah,
good stuff.
That's great. So
it was really cool.
It shows people get on social media and be very proactive.
Oh, absolutely. The more noise you can make, the better. That's the best advice I've ever gotten, was make noise. Make as much noise as possible. Marketing
and branding, Georgia. So can you tell us a bit about, I'm going to get a little bit kind of marketing-y, technical.
I'm ready.
Here. You ready for, can you tell us a bit about your brand identity?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, my brand is, I try to make my brand as close to me as possible, because then it's easier to be able to do all the time.
Kind of write what you know, sort of thing.
Exactly. And it's definitely evolved over time, but I think I've reached a point now where my brand is quite clear and recognizable for people who sort of know the kind of country scene. I sit very neatly on that kind of country rock line, with a little bit of blues every so often kind of played into it. And in terms of like look and feel and personality and stuff like that, I again try and keep that as close to myself as I can, so it's all very it's like stern but positive. It's friendly, but it's not like over the top. I try and keep as many kind of like colorings as similar as I can. My logo's always been the same color, and that I think has been actually quite helpful because it's kind of guided everything else to fit quite nicely, and now it's a lot easier for me to be kind of like recognized.
I think that's quite important when bands stick to a design or a logo and a consistency with it, where it resonates. So one of the things that bugbears me when I got into Anathema, Paradise Lost, and Metallica and Megadeth during the early 90s, they all had the designs that, like, well, obviously the Pete's wearing the top there, that design. We all knew it, right? There you go. But I think it was probably 95 onwards. Those bands then, they changed their image. And for a lot of people, I think, we were like, it was a huge adjustment. I mean, the whole text and logo changed for a lot of the bands. And it I don't know, it kind of, for me, it lost its, it no longer became organic. It didn't have an emotional attachment. It's like we get some letters, there's emotion and feeling in the calligraphy. Yeah, if you got block impact letters, it's kind of a bit straight and plain and to the point, and it takes away the emotion side. So I try to do that with our lettering, and for 20 odd years now I've kept it the same because I think it's really important, even if you haven't got too far in the world. It's like when it changes, your fan base moves away a little. So if you got that consistency of colors, and it's like, oh, I remember this artist, they're using that color and that, I remember that, and it's like a parafashion, but in a visual art form. I think it's quite good.
Exactly. And then it works with in psychology as well. There's aspects of the fact that you see certain colors, you think of certain things, like, and my hope was that people see the kind of like the beige and the dark red, and it's my logo. Or they see that because the font isn't a particularly unique font. But I've tried to kind of stamp it as much as I can.
But it's probably memorable as well. It's a bit like New Times Roman. Everybody knows that logo and Impact because it gets used a lot, and it's used. It's good. I think it's important.
As like small independent artists, there's definitely room to be able to change that. But again, that transition needs to be very kind of well thought out, I think you have to keep
Yes.
something of it. You either keep the color or you keep some aspect of the font, or do you know what I mean? Like, it can't be black and white.
Yeah,
I
no,
see.
I
It's
totally
got to
agree.
be,
When
it's got to
branding
be an
becomes a little bit-
evolution in
Yeah.
some way.
Yeah, exactly.
It can't just be like, oh, you're going from like ape to fish.
Yes,
sort of
exactly.
thing, to use an analogy.
It's confusing. Unless you're progressing and it's going to
Yeah.
be better.
Yeah,
Like, you could have a really, really crap logo, but
they do really well.
Yeah. My next point on here, Georgia. Obviously, you are a country artist. Are you targeting America? Because obviously that's kind of the roots of the genre. The main reason I ask is because I was speaking. Have you heard of a producer called Billy Decker?
no.
No, strange. He's one of the largest
Ringing
country and
bells,
western
so- Oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah.
producers in the world. He's based out.
Obviously, I don't know who that is.
It's like Shania Twain and all of this sort of stuff.
Hilarious.
He's
Yes.
one of he writes for her and stuff. And I was actually speaking to him, and I know, name dropping.
Okay.
Ooh. And I said to him, like, because I actually thought of you, and I said, like, to him, well, what does a British artist have to do to kind of break America? And he said the best thing that you could do was to move to Nashville, but your music has to be good, but you also have to get in with people. You have to
Yes.
network, and that without doing that, if you're not physically there doing it,
Yeah.
forget it, sort of thing. So I was wondering if that's something that you was ever sort of thinking about. As a
Yeah, I
progression in your
mean,
career.
when was that? When did you speak to him?
At least a year or so ago, maybe 18 months or so.
Yeah. So that was absolutely the way that everyone was thinking. We were all like, we're going to have to move to Nashville. We've got to do this. We have to do that. But country has blown up so much in the UK now that the artists are coming over here, and we are able to have that connection a lot easier. I found that access to Nashville and communicating with the American artists has been significantly easier since country's blown up over here, because they're recognizing it for more than just, well, you have to be in Nashville and you have to be American. It's a lot more, the scope is now visible to them. And I think that that's making it a lot easier for like managers and agents and things like that to be able to communicate with the American artists. And there are a lot of artists in the UK right now who are doing a ton of stuff with American artists, and they still live in the UK.
Brilliant.
So I almost think that actually with the UK, it's a small pond, but it's very easy to be a big fish. And when you're a big fish in the small pond, you can then jump over to the big pond as a slightly bigger fish. And I think that I actually find it quite almost beneficial right now to be living in the UK and being in country music, because it is
in a way, it's kind of an easier place to cut your teeth.
Exactly. We're not like clouded by the fact that everyone is everywhere, and there are a lot of people, a lot of producers as well, and some really great people in the industry who are in the UK industry who have moved to Nashville, who keep the connections in the UK. So I think that a year ago it was completely different, and I feel like now things are definitely changing. It's probably more beneficial to still be in Nashville, but everyone that I know that's there is like, Nashville is the place to be, obviously, but it's not inaccessible.
Yeah. So what do you think has caused that shift then? Is it
Beyonce.
just purely the Beyonce?
Post Malone, Ed Sheeran, like all of this mainstream country, people are finally able to hear what country music actually is now, rather than just what they think of country music. And
kind of think, oh, it's not just a toothless guy with a banjo.
Well, we love these guys with the banjo.
It's exactly what it is.
They are great, but it's it's not all of that. That's what started it. They're the legends of country music, but country music is like rock. It's so vast, and there are so many subgenres within it that like you can't. it can't be pinned down anymore. And I think that the UK mindset was like, no, country is nothing I would ever listen to. But country was nothing they would ever listen to because they thought country was what country was 30 years ago.
The strategies that you've got for marketing, do they differ from your live shows, like how you would advertise a live show, to how you would market releasing your music, like whether it's going to streaming sites and things like that?
Yeah.
What's the difference? And, you know, is there any specific sort of tips that you could give our listener?
I would say that for music releases, it's about getting that song in people's heads before it comes out, and then getting it in their heads so that they have to listen to it once it comes out. And I think the best way to do that is Reels, it's TikTok, it's, you know, it's picking that part of a song that you can get in people's heads and recording little videos with it over and over and over and over and over. And if you have the power of influencer marketing, then great. If you have friends who are influencers, even better. But I think that's the best way that I found so far for music releases. And also kind of like finding different ways to talk about the song, different things to share about the song, other ways of engaging people. And obviously like things like merch comes into that as well. And then in terms of like gigs and stuff, I would say it's just reminding people. In my mind, it's like they've got to see it 7 times to be able to half remember it. So I gotta make sure I post it at least.
It's about
20.
touch points, would you say, for live music in particular? So is there something like within like the content, within the copy of the content that you'll do differently between the two?
Sometimes, yeah. So I tend to, I think the idea of having a hook and then telling what you need people to pay attention to is kind of the best way that I found to get information across. Because if you're just saying, oh, I've got a gig this day and here's the ticket link, I think that's a lot harder to garner attention. That's something that people will see and just scroll and they won't even read it. Because if you say something that's going to catch them and then you have that, it's got a little bit more to it. There's a little bit more it's a little more like, oh, what's that? And then they can choose whether they carry on scrolling or if they decide to click on it. But at least you've stopped them.
So could you give us an example of a hook that you would use?
Oh, I mean, the other day I did a post, but it's a photo of me sat on a pool table, and I was like, "Oh, sorry, my butt got tired." Right? Like, weird hook. What? Like, people were looking at that and they're like, "Oh." And then after that, I'd written, "By the way, my new single comes out on Friday, and here's where to pre-save it."
That's great. That's really good stuff, actually.
You're right, though. It stuff like that does work. Like, we use the captions in the Instagram Reels too.
Always.
And it's like, people are like, oh, that looks tasty. I mean, you know, it's sad, but obviously anything that's sex sells on the internet, unfortunately, and it's a sad thing because a lot of like the views for just videos that don't even show a lot. It's the clickbait, I suppose, isn't it? So, like, you know, and
clickbait still works to some extent. Yeah.
I think if you use it well enough, I think it will bring people in, and I think that's probably what did it with our reel. That there's a word that cap cutters put in, and I think people are going, oh, that's a good, interesting, like part of the conversation that JJ spouting out. And that's the one that got the most views. Like, so it's hard to engage what it is that really pulls people. We know what does work, but we don't really want to use that because you're selling yourselves a bit cheaply. Then we don't want to do that. We want to be able to get people in. I mean, much like yourself, obviously, you want to get people interested, and you're like, oh, okay, well, let's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you want to get people in for the right reasons rather than.
But in today's world with social media, it's increasingly difficult because a lot of the videos that people click on, it's not for what it should be, and it is quite sad. But like, I think if you work it enough, that you can pull people in. Obviously, the one that you did is funny, and people like a bit of comedy too. And maybe that's why
something that came into my brain when I took the photo. So
yeah.
I want to just chat a little bit about streaming sites very, very shortly.
My
this
favourite
could be
topic.
a rabbit hole, and I know we've got time to think.
We all know that.
So, for streaming, do you point your fan base to a specific platform?
It depends what I'm after.
Right.
I'd say. So first few singles, it was iTunes because I wanted that number one. I wanted a something I could put in my bio, because at the time I had nothing. And that's the only reason I have those, that you can say for chart topping iTunes country tracks, because that was where I was directing people. Now my focus is Spotify, so I have redirected that to be the spot. I know, but it is how it is. We've got to play the game sometimes.
So why Spotify? What's the specific?
So for me, it's the fact that that's where a lot of bookers are looking. It's where a lot of agents are looking. It's where a lot of people who book you for things look. It's one of the easiest places for people to access your music. And right now, my view, I'm not in this to make money right now. I'm in this to build something. So I'm playing the long game.
So you're kind of in discovery mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Spotify is a part of that. Trying to get playlisted is a part of that. And that's why I've redirected over to that.
Yeah, no, that's great. So it's a great piece of advice, I think, is to actually kind of look at it as a goal rather than I'm just going to put out everywhere and hope for the best. And kind of like, okay, you had a goal of I want the charts is my focal point, so I'm going to direct everyone there. And now it's Spotify because I want to grow a fan base, so I'm going to push people there. And I suppose if you were thinking more, I want a royalty, then maybe SoundCloud might be better because they've got a user-centric system as opposed to the pro rata stuff.
Yeah, but also I'm aware of where my fan base listen to music, where they consume it, and I know that that's a rare place for them to go. Unfortunately, I can direct people to iTunes, Apple Music, and things. Spotify
they are the go-to places, isn't it?
But SoundCloud is always a little trickier to
get people to. But because I'm still kind of a big advocate, because Bandcamp seems to be quite a big one for metal, I think.
Oh, really?
Are you on Bandcamp?
Kind of metal.
I am, but it's not an active.
I'm not sure country is kind of the place for that. In the same way, like SoundCloud is kind of a bit more kind of hip hop and stuff like that. But for royalties, because they have the user centric thing, it would be better for all, especially independent artists.
Interesting.
And there's another one called Tune FM, I think it's called, that has a different royalty system. It's quite a new one. But it's good to know, and that's a great piece of advice. Actually, I think is to have a goal with it, and then kind of direct people to where you want to go. The other thing, I was snooping on your website, and I noticed that you have a subscription on your website. So, do you feel that that's beneficial for you to reach out to your fan base in that way?
Yes.
And if so, what sort of content are you throwing out via emails and things like that?
So it's definitely beneficial. Again, like the UK country fan base is very dedicated. They want to feel connected to you. It opens that line of communication a little more. And it also allows me to be able to be like, oh, we've got something special to tell you. And I can tell those people before I put it out on social media, and it just kind of builds that sense of community. And I do definitely send out things like offers and stuff like that when I've got new merch or merch that I'm trying to shift. They will be the ones that get it. But before I do that, I'll always put something out on social media to advertise that that's where this offer is about to be sent to, so that then I can garner more newsletter subscriptions and then more people, and then it just keep building,
escalating. So it's kind of a compound effect.
I think I only send emails out like once a month, once every couple of months. I never send them unless I've got something to talk about.
That's a fair one.
I'm not sure if that's always the right way. Sometimes I feel like I should be doing way more, but actually
but your socials come in for that, don't they? Because it's like engagement.
And prioritizing is a huge thing, because otherwise you end up in burnout, and I'm not a fan of that. So
Yeah, plus you just don't want to feel like you're spamming people's inboxes
exactly.
as well. And
He's
that
like,
sort
I'm
of
not
thing.
their life. Like, I'm not going to pretend I am.
I get so much spam on emails, just like delete.
Probably me.
No, I would actually, I would
Sorry.
read yours. Am I signed up to? I'm probably am. I'd imagine so. Music videos as a way of promotion, I suppose. You've done some full length music videos. My opinion on music videos isn't particularly highly regarded, shall we say?
Pete loves band videos in the forests.
Anything in the woods.
And anything by rocks.
With like an industrial background.
Yes, that's the
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
He loves all
there's
that.
the typical metal like thing of if I see another band in the woods, I'm going to slap someone with a tree. I swear.
Oh my goodness, I know exactly what you mean. That's
Exactly. And I'm always sending
Abandoned buildings.
Westo. I'm always sending him like random clips of bands in woods. Like, look at these pricks.
Yeah, you said that. They're my band.
Yeah, another doom metal band in a graveyard.
Yeah.
How unexpected. But I mean, do you find that long form in particular? Do you find that works as a marketing tool?
So it
Well,
depends
or not?
who for. I think that the music videos that I've done, I'm really lucky because my dad is a film director, producer guy. So we've got a lot of friends, a lot of people I grew up with who are now very happy to help. And all of my music videos have been people just wanting to help, which is incredible. They've still cost a lot of money. There's still been a huge investment, but it's nowhere near the scale for what those videos are. It's not even a drop in the ocean. So I think that for me, those videos have been so valuable in reaching the big people, the managers, the booking agents, the bookers, the festivals, things like that, because of how professional they are. But equally, I think if we're talking about like fan base wise, it's just a nice little touch. It's not something that I would say go spend 10 grand on by any means. I
It's
think
not a
there's other
hill
ways
to die on.
that.
Sort of thing.
Exactly. And actually a lot of kind of like home video style music videos can perform really well and can do really well.
They do, yeah.
I think that's kind of how I view them. Like, to me, it's been super, super valuable, but I have been able to do them with the help of some really talented, great people. And I think that's kind of what's made them valuable, and what's made them valuable to the people I was trying to make them valuable for. Because yes, it's obviously for the fan base, it's obviously for anyone who wants to pay attention to anything that I'm doing. But equally, it's been really great in promotion, and and when I'm on a lineup for a festival or something, they'll always be like, "Oh, your music videos are sick. Can we use a clip? Can we take something from it?" So it's a great tool on that front, because I've not had to film myself singing for a few years. Which is great, I still do, but I haven't had to for anything like that because it's all there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you would kind of suggest is like maybe just have, from that perspective, it's just to have one really good video, maybe try to make a bit of an investment and have it more for an industry thing, if that's your goals as an artist.
Yes, depends on your goals for sure.
Yeah, and then kind of look at how you can repurpose that in different ways, sort of thing. Yeah.
And when I was doing these
great.
videos as well, it wasn't so long form was still more relevant. Long form was still kind of where you could direct people really easily. Whereas now, if I were to do it and I were to find the money that I did for those videos, it would be for shorter form things, but would still take the same amount of time, the same amount of like effort, expense, like all of that, to have 6 little videos as it was to have one big video. So maybe just one big video where that everything is kind of in a portrait mode, so you can crop everything and use little clips.
In that repurposing kind of way. Oh, that's cool. That's great advice. With your merchandise, Georgia, I mean, I always picture artists having like a ton of merch in cupboards and under beds. That's the thing.
I don't.
But you seem to sell out. Or do you have stuff under beds?
I think I set my buying for merch bar very low. And
low.
I end up not buying enough, which is a really lovely position to be in. But yeah, it's all in one little like cabin-sized suitcase. Right.
Okay. So your advice is buy small. You might pay a little bit more, but you'd rather pay a little bit more and sell it through than have stock floating around.
Yeah, the thing with merch for me is like I buy as much as I know I can make a profit on, because merch really is where I make money.
Really. Sensible.
Yeah. So when you source your merch, because in episode 5 we talked about the morals of the music industry and things like that, and merch was a big part of that. So are you fair trade minded and locally sourced and that sort of thing, or are you just like, screw it, I'm gonna make some child in China lose his fingers? And
No, I'm not that. I've done a bit of everything, to be honest. I've done the DIY thing. I've also done the getting like a close friend has helped me make my merch before. I've then moved on to having small companies help make my merch. And now I work with a company called Yazoo Personalized Clothing. And they do actually have like an ethical clause in their terms and conditions, because I checked. Yes. And they are like part of the like trading standards, ethical personalized clothing stuff.
Does that cost a little more though?
Not that I've noticed, actually. They were one of the cheapest options that I found for small runs as well. Like I'm still only getting a run of like maybe 50, 60 tops.
Which were they based?
They are in the UK. I'm not sure whereabouts.
If you could drop a link, Pete, for the viewers as well.
I will put a link in the show notes, obviously, to anyone that's mentioned. There will be.
I tell you what, I will mention one for you. I mean, if that's who you were going with and it works for you, great. But we found one we haven't worked with yet. I mean, they're local to us in Cwmbran. Do you know Cwmbran at all?
No.
Cwmbran, Newport area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's up the road basically. So for us, it's up the road. It's great, and they're on an industrial estate, and his workshop is in these industrial estate sort of areas. And in the unit, we so that's what we're going to try and do and source it locally, because we were getting ours through Shopify, but there's a lot of logistic. Oh, it's just a nightmare.
Yeah, you're better off finding a company locally if you can that'll help you out, because that's a nightmare. There are certain things that I find are about the money for me as an artist, and merch is where I make that money to be able to do all the other things. So keep
the costs down. Speaking of money, when you play live, because obviously you're selling a lot of your merch at venues, is there a cut for the venues themselves, or are you at 100%?
Will sometimes have a percentage that they will take, but I've never played a venue that's taken a cut.
So no hall fees or anything like that, which is great. Brilliant. Okay. So kind of moving on to recorded music and money. How are you funding your latest project?
So I spent 2024 taking on about 3 covers gigs a week.
Covers do
that's where I make the biggest chunk of any money to be able to put towards music. Everything that comes in goes straight back out again.
That's very well thought out. Good business head.
It is. It's 7 days a week working though. Wouldn't recommend that, but we make it work. But I think so that was the biggest chunk. But actually I also was loaned money that I am paying off from covers gigs now in the next year, 2 years, to pay
balance
that
the books.
Essentially.
Yeah, so you kind of look at it from the point of view, if whatever money I make from music, like aside of any sort of day job, that gets reinvested back into my music.
Exactly that.
You have a day job to kind of cover your bills and everything else.
Exactly. The day job literally covers the bills and food and maybe one nice thing a month.
One nice thing for Will.
Everything else, everything else goes on music. So
okay. Now I think that's how I would work it.
Yeah. My
Yeah,
EP was
it's-
fully funded by covers gigs, which was
Brilliant.
just
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
find a way.
There's some
Yeah, and-
pros to covers. I'm not a big fan of
Oh,
cover
completely.
bands, only because they tend to get a lot of. Well, it's like the venues will go, well, we'll pay them 250, 300 quid a night. I'm like, well, that's a lot of money for music we've already heard. And what about these bands that are writing their own? We'll give you petrol money, and you're like,
Oh yeah, totally. I
like-
also it's worth
Work-
noting as well that actually the EP launches. So I did 2 EP launch nights, and every ticket sale from those launches went into this project that I'm doing now as well. So actually
Yeah.
there was, there was actually some real Georgia Nevada money in there too, which is quite nice.
It's
Wasn't
quite
all
nice,
covers
yeah.
gigs. Yeah.
Yeah. So is any of kind of going to the streaming and royalty rates, because you're quite an advocate of registering your music, and getting everything done properly, because you get your ISRC codes from the PRS or the PPL or whatever else, don't you?
Yeah.
So
well thought out.
that kind of royalty stream, is that any good in general, or is it just like
It's pocket change. I think the
yeah.
most I've ever made on a song was £62.
wow?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was within like 2 months of releasing it, I think. So there's no money to be made in
There's no
streaming.
money in streaming.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
There isn't. I mean, if you can make money through streaming, then great. But you're in the millions. Do you know what I mean? Your streaming numbers are going to be
you
mad
have to
high.
be hugely established to be kind of at that kind of level.
One of many reasons why I come off Spotify.
Yes. Are you kind of thinking as a way of making more money, is trying to license your music in any way, trying to get it into kind of sync licensing or publishing or things like that in any way?
Yeah, so I would love to do that, but it's finding the right people. In the UK, there have been a few situations where artists have been taken advantage of from that perspective,
Okay.
with paying big fees up front and they're not getting anything out of it. So it's not something I'm looking at right now, but it's something I'd definitely like to progress to.
What does the future hold for Georgia Nevada? So are you looking to stay independent? Are you looking for industry representation or anything like that? What's the kind of the goals going forward for the next sort of at least 3 years or something like that, I suppose?
Yeah, I think at the moment I'm kind of progressing as much as I can as a solely independent artist with absolutely no team. And I think that I am very closely hitting my, like a brick wall. I'm finding there is definitely a brick wall
Kind of
between
a
people with
threshold
some
of-
sort of representation. There's a certain point where you can't get through it unless you have some sort of representation. And that's the wall I keep hitting at the moment. And I'm hoping to defy that. To be able to be like, no, I can just do it. But I'd be lying if I said that wasn't a wall. So I would love to be able to find some sort of representation, whether it be in a manager or an agent or someone that is able to break through those walls while also respecting the journey I've had so far and the amount of work I do put into it. And I don't want to take any workload off of myself because I love this. Like I love all the marketing stuff and all the stuff that we hate to our core. I kind of love doing. And I think it's just, I think that side of things can be really fun. So that's sort of the level of industry representation that I'd be looking for in the next sort of like 3 years or so. In terms of labels and things like that, I'm very happy staying independent as long as I can financially find that money to be able to do it, I will do it.
Yeah. I want to thank you, Georgia, for joining us on this wonderful episode. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. Just as a reminder,
Very informative.
My Town 2, Georgia's latest single, is out now. It was out on the 11th. Go listen to it wherever you consume music, but mainly Spotify, because that's where she's pointing people.
And add it to a playlist. That would
Add
be
it to
great.
a playlist. Join up her subscription on her website. It's down below. The website is there. And support her. Go see her play live. Go buy her merch and do all the things that you should do as a music lover. If you don't, we will track you down and
slap you.
Slap you. You will get slapped.
For those
like
not
this.
watching, for those not.
Oh. Tried to stop it. You carry on.
Right, for those that are not watching and only listening, it's
GeorgiaNevada.com.
Okay, it's GeorgiaNevada.com, and it'll be in the show notes.
It will be in the show notes along with everyone else that was mentioned. Thanks again, Georgia. Any last dying words?
If someone fancies investing in me so I can move to Nashville, that would be lovely. Thank you and good night.
You probably shouldn't have slapped Elon Musk.
I know.
The world's
He would have been my
richest
ticket
man.
into America, wouldn't he?
Hey, in his defense, I think he would probably say, "Yeah, I am a bit of a child, really."
I wasn't as mean as I could have been.
Well, that's true. That's true.
I would absolutely love it if he sees this and he gives you some money to move to Nashville.
Imagine
just to make a point. That would be amazing.
That would be great. Don't they have golden tickets now? Isn't it like a
5 million
factory situation? Yeah. I could just find one of them at a chocolate bar. That'd be great.
A $5 million chocolate bar.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Well, listen, from me anyway, I hope that everything that you've worked hard doing comes to fruition.
Thank you.
Because I know it's tough trying to do what you do, and you put in a lot of hard work. So well done to you. And yeah, good luck with the future. And it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks. You too.
No worries.
All right, thank you. Bye, everybody.
See you soon.
Bye. Bad Night Podcast.